So today we're going to talk about the Brexit crisis and how it impacted and impacts the European Union and as well as the UK. So before we talk about what is Brexit and how it affected the European nation, we should talk about what is the European Union, right? So it was established in 1957 and it started out as the Treaty of Rome between 6 nations at the time: Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and West Germany. It originally came to be from the idea that countries or nations that traded together would not go to war with each other, as it was in 1957. So they're fresh out from all the wars that happened previously. It was a way to keep the peace between these 6 nations at the time. Sooner, it became something larger as more countries started to join the Union, and it started to get more in depth with not only trading but just politically and economically involved within these nations and the countries surrounding them, with 27 nations in the Union in 2021. The EU values. They have 5 values. They have 5 main values. The rule of law, which is everything the EU does is founded on treaties, and it's a democracy, right, agreed by the countries in the Union and from the people. Human rights. These cover the right to be free from discrimination on the basis of sex, racial, or ethnic origins, religion or belief, disability, age, or sexual orientation, the right to the protection of your personal data, and the right to get access to justice. So just like the basic human rights that they believe everyone should have. Democracy. The function of the EU is founded on representative democracy. Being a European citizen also means enjoying political rights. Every adult European Union citizen has the right to stand as a candidate and to vote in elections to the European Parliament of their country of origin. Equality. So equal rights for all citizens before the law. The basic of equality between women and men underpins all European policies and is the basis for European integration. It applies in all areas. The principle of equal pay for equal work became part of the Treaty of Rome in 1957. Although inequalities still exist, the EU has made significant progress compared to other developed countries. And freedom. So freedom of movement gives citizens the right to move and reside freely within the Union, as well as individual freedom such as respect for private life, freedom of thought, religion, assembly, expression, and information are protected by the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. So, the UK had officially joined the European Union in January of 1973 by the former Prime Minister Edward Heath, as he thought that the UK could benefit greatly by what the EU had to offer. Although they did have a difficult time trying to become a member, President de Gaulle of France had vetoed the UK membership twice in the 60s. De Gaulle distrusted the British, particularly because he thought that in disputes they would always take the American side. A rocky start. So 2 years after they became a member of the EU in 1975, they had another big decision, right? The burning question: should they stay or should they go? They wanted to leave because of the Labour Party had historically feared the consequences of the EU membership, such as the large differences between the high price of food under the Common Agriculture Policy and the low prices prevalent in Commonwealth markets, as well as the loss of both economic sovereignty and the freedom of governments to engage in socialist industrial policies. So they wanted to leave in 75 because of the idea of freedom between politics, economically, and what's better off for the country if they stay or if they go. Well, the final vote came in, and it was 64% decided they wanted to stay. And the idea came from that was they stayed because financially they were better off to stay, and the idea of more choices within the future between trade of goods and imports and exports. So tensions rise a little more in 1984 between the Union and the UK, when the Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher talked tough in order to reduce British payments to the EEC budget, as the UK was paying more than what they were receiving. At the time, the UK was the third poorest nation in the community. It was paying a lot more into the budget based on agriculture, and the UK's farms made up some 70% of total EEC expenditures. Thatcher's negotiation remains in place until they officially left the European Union. And Britain's overall contribution to the budget has reduced about 20 to 10% through the years. Where it all began. Again, the idea popped up again from former Prime Minister David Cameron. He gave a much anticipated speech in which he outlined the challenges facing Europe and promised to renegotiate membership in the EU if his Conservative Party won a majority in the next general election. At the same time, support was growing among British voters for the UK Independence Party and its hardline stance against the EU. So as the question popped up again, it seems at this time there was a lot more people have taken side to leaving the EU. And they officially started to campaign again in 2016 to leave the European Union. Prime Minister David Cameron, if you're wondering what he looked like, here's a picture of him. So he was the Prime Minister that got the wheels turning in 2016. But before that, he vetoed an EU treaty in 2011, and he made the statement to negotiate the membership. So he went to work renegotiating the UK-EU membership, including changes in migrant welfare, payments, financial safeguards, an easier way for Britain to block EU regulations. In February 2016, he announced the result of those negotiations and set June 23rd as the date of the promised referendum. Next, we have Prime Minister Theresa May. On March 29, 2017, she submitted Article 50, which states that a nation would like to withdraw their membership from the EU. She had one intention, and that was to formally give notice of Britain's intent to leave the EU on March 29, 2017. So the order signed by May, a day earlier, was delivered to the Council of the European Union, officially starting the 2-year countdown to Britain's EU departure, set for March 30th, 2019. However, on March 30th, 2019, Parliament rejected May's EU withdrawal agreement. The European Council set a new deadline of October 31st, 2019, or the first day of the month after that in which a withdrawal agreement is passed. The reason why they decided to leave in 2016. Economically, they felt they put more into the EU than what they got out. Immigration and jobs. Citizens of the UK felt that in the future, unskilled labor would come and take over precious jobs that the UK citizens would rather have. And then it goes back to the idea of sovereignty, and that they just wanted the freedom on a political, economical, and financial freedom. So I think if you look at the first referendum, it kind of ties into this referendum of 2016-17 it has an idea of the same reasons why they wanted to leave then are the same reasons they wanted to leave now. Trouble with finalization. Although it did not go through completely the first time, as the EU withdrew their Article 50, Thatcher may wrote to the Council President Donald Tusk asking to extend Article 50 until June 30th, 2019. The European agreed to extend the validation of Article 50 until 31st October 2019, which would get pushed back a few more times until January 2020. At the end of 2019, the UK elected a new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and his whole campaign was around finalizing Brexit. So on January 31st, 2020, about a month after his election, the UK left the EU and entered a transition period. And then a year later, December 31st, 2020, transition period finally ended and the UK officially left the EU single market and customs. So about after 4 years of all this big talk of leaving and wanting to leave and trying to leave, they finally left after 43 years of membership to the EU. And then around my left, or the left, you have Boris Johnson holding 2 thumbs up, right? Congratulations. The votes are in, and here's a Brexit voter breakdown by region. 48% wanted to remain in the EU. We're typically in northern UK, which right here is Scotland, and then you have over here is Northern Ireland. Oh, actually no, not even Wales. This tip of Wales. Oops. Shoot. Okay. $17.4 million in favor of leaving from the European Union to 16.1 million who voted to remain. So overall, that gives us a number of 47. That gives us 33.5 million votes in total out of the 47.6 million eligible to vote. So that's pretty good voter turnout, and that really sees that the UK on this topic is quite a divided country. So who voted to leave? Well, pro-voters were older, working-class residents of England's countryside. They were afraid of immigrants and refugees taking over their jobs, and small businesses were frustrated by EU fees. As they thought, the UK paid more than what they have received. And then I put the map again, showing that England's countryside over here voted to leave. And then you have the UK citizens that wanted to stay. So most lived in London, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So mainly that yellow area in Northern UK. They liked the free trade with the EU, as well as on a global status. Most felt like leaving the EU would damage the reputation. And on an economical sense, a lot of them felt that it would lower the economy. The UK final payments to the EU. So the UK will have to pay a divorce bill of £25 billion by 2057. To put that more in terms where we can understand it, it would be 34 billion USD dollars. And the UK has set a plan to pay £18 billion by 2027. So within 6 years, or 7 years in total of them leaving, which would be 24 billion USD. And they had to pay this based on previous commitments they already made. And so along with Brexit, there were travel and citizenship changes between UK citizens and EU citizens. So within the EU, there's free travel for the EU citizens in their participating nations, where these EU citizens can work or stay as long as they want within the deciding EU nations. And they're practically, when the EU citizens go from country to country, they're practically treated like they are citizens of that country. But now with Brexit, things have changed. So free movement between the UK and EU has ended. European nationals already living in the UK must make sure they have documents from the UK government, specifically allowing them to remain. Travelers between the EU and UK must have passports ready to show at the border. On a EU citizenship level, this obviously seems like a small hindrance to traveling, as well as working from other countries, working in the UK. So trading from now on between the EU and UK. So they still have no tariff trade, which means trading will not be taxed, whether it's imports or exports. They will allow investment competition and transparency between the two in EU and UK waters. They have agreed on a new framework for the joint management of fish stocks in EU and UK waters. The UK will be able to further develop British fishing activities, while the activities and livelihood of European fishing communities will be safeguarded and natural resources preserved. Transportation. The agreement provides for continued and sustainable air, road, whale, and waterways through market access falls below what the single market offers. It includes provisions to ensure that competition between EU and UK operators takes place on a level playing field so that passenger rights, workers' rights, and transport safety are not undermined. So for the most part, on a basic level, not too much has changed, except the UK is more free to trade with whoever they want. But between the EU and UK trading, they're still keeping it relatively free between the two. So the UK still benefits from EU programs, such as Horizon Europe Research Scheme, Euratom Nuclear Research Program, Copernicus, the Earth Monitoring Project, and then ITER project to use magnetic fusion to develop a new type of power plant. Also the European Space Program. Although they will not be personally being involved, they will still be known contributors to the program and still be paying into that program. And then again, it just states that they have 25 billion euros left to pay by 2057, which would be 34 billion USD. Well, I bet you didn't see that coming. It came from the left instead of the right. Gotta spice things up a little bit, right? No, so economic changes for EU. After Brexit, the euro has went down in value. The UK was among the EU's largest trading partner, and 13% of trade in goods and services came from the UK. The overall reversal of that integration and following Brexit will hurt income and employment in the EU, as the UK with like the idea of EU citizenship and travel restrictions, Now, any EU citizen must get official documents to be able to work and reside in the EU for longer periods of time, instead of being able to just, apply for a job. The process is going to take longer for EU citizens. Economical changes for the UK. As stated before, Brexit will hurt income and employment in the EU. The UK economy will be a few points behind than if they were to stay in the Union, stated by economical professionals between in the UK nations and within the EU and United States, as well as the pound has fallen by 12% against the EU, against the euro. So there will be, for the most part, large changes at first, but what professionals are predicting is that the UK will be able to bounce back relatively quickly within the next 5 or 10 years. So here we get a look at comparing the euro to the pound. I made a graph on Google Sheets to try to make this a little easier to understand how much of an effect Brexit has cost on both sides, the UK and the EU. So if we take a look at the euro to the pound, on December 1st, 2020, 1 euro equaled 0.90 of a pound, which this is to be said that 1 euro is less than a pound. And then if you take a look more at January 1st, so a month after, or right after officially the Brexit deal, the euro lost about 0.02% of its value, and it continues to decrease throughout now today, April 8th, which was a couple days ago, to 0.87, which isn't a whole lot, but if you take a look at that in like millions or billions, it definitely adds up quick. And then I did the euro to the US dollar. So the euro has a higher value than the American dollar by about 20 cents. And the same goes for here. The euro has lost a little value between the beginning of the year to 4 months later in April, but it's a very small amount considering it's really only like 0.02. And then if we take the pound to the USD dollar, 1 pound would equal, in December 1st, 2020, 1 pound would equal $1 and a dime. But as we go further along between then and now, it has risen to about 36 cents more, which means the pound value is becoming more powerful. And imports dropped 28.8%. The Office for National Statistics states the figures contributed to a 2.9% month-on-month decline in overall economic output. This also could be because of Brexit, but this also might be because of the pandemic going on. But overall, the numbers show a fall between the goods imported and exported between the economy for the EU. Then we have the UK's economy now. Overall, Britain's exports dropped 19.3% and imports fell 21.6%. The biggest monthly decline since records began in 1997. But overall, shipments to non-EU countries increased slightly, and imports declined from non-EU nations have dropped by 8%. So overall, the UK should be okay if they can sustain without EU imports and they make new trading ties with other countries. And if it were to stay. But it also overall it depends on how the pandemic plays out. And if the UK will be able to, I guess really just how the UK responds to the pandemic and how they deal with post-Brexit, right? So I think time will tell. And I think we just have to wait and see to see how this whole thing pans out. UK's next step to rebound their economy. The UK needs to up their trade rates as EU was 40% of exports. Create connections with countries outside of the Union, obviously, and help business out that are struggling after Brexit, as well as due to this pandemic. Brexit critics say it will be very difficult for trade with other countries to counter the impact of increased barriers to trade with the EU. Overall, the UK needs to update trade with other countries and make sure they're making these strong connections. Future between the UK and EU. I think overall there's a lot of uncertainty between the first country to break away from the Union ever. So, and also depends on the global pandemic and how this pans out and how every country takes care of their citizens by protecting them and helping them any way that they can financially. Stated in the previous slide, I think time will tell, and even then, this is all new territory and ground for experts. I think they would be able to, conclude how they think it will, but whether if it really does or not, I think that's two separate things. Now we're going to talk about my citations and how we got to talk, how I got all this information. So I use the website Currency Converter to make that chart of comparing the USD to a euro, a pound to USD, and euro to the pound, and vice versa. The next European Union, this discussed briefly on the subject of what is Brexit and what is the EU as a whole and what their values and what they stand for. What's in the EU-UK Brexit deal? Just talk more about the logistics of what would happen if this happened, if Brexit happened, on a political, economical, and trading standpoint. What is Brexit? Just talked about a brief history of the UK trying to leave and what made them lead up to wanting to hold another referendum and officially leaving. And then Brexit divorce bill just talked about post-Brexit and how the UK is still involved in certain EU programs and what they have to pay the EU still for leaving. And so in Euro News, it was just really another outline of what Brexit is and how it came to be. Pound sterling, Bank of England is another convergent between the euro and the pound and the euro and the USD. And they just gave me like the fees and all that information to make my chart in previous slides. And skepticism beyond Brexit. That just talked about the future of the UK and the EU, and is it really worth it to leave, or should they stay, or should they have gone? And then we have Walker Nigel's Brexit timeline, and that gave a more, it kind of gave two. It gave a brief history of the UK trying to leave the EU, and also just next steps that the EU and UK should take to rebound economically from the UK's leaving of the EU. So that's the end of it. So thank you for listening, even if you had to. I hope you learned what Brexit is and how it affects the UK economy and the EU economy.